Hi, my name is Lexi. My best friends tried to kill me, and today I'm going to be telling you how I think I survived. I want to start out this video by saying my survival really boils down to one simple fact, and that is that I was in the right place at the right time where the right person came out and called 911. I was 5 minutes from the hospital. Otherwise, I would not be alive talking to you today. However, there are some things that I think drastically increased my chance of survival, and I'm going to be telling you about them today. I fought back. I yelled, I kicked, I screamed, I ripped my hair out, I made as much noise as I possibly could. And my reasoning for doing so was not even because I believed it would help me survive. Of course, I think instinctually I had hoped so, but the actual thought behind that was I need to make sure that someone knows that I was here so that they can't get rid of my body and just get rid of everything. I don't really know what fully I was thinking at that moment, but I remember looking and seeing that the water bottle bong that they had handed the substance to me in was plastic, and having the realization hit me that they're just gonna throw that away and no one's going to really even realize that I was here. But because of how much noise I made, I alerted a person, his mother, to the fact that I was in the house, and then she came upstairs and demanded that I be let go because I wasn't allowed to die on her property. When the mother actually came into the room, I was on the floor at this point. I made it all around that room. I had been on the bed, the couch. I tried to rush at the window, but when she came in, I was on the floor and I felt practically paralyzed. I could not move my body, but my fight or flight instinct really kicked in when I realized that I was going to be able to get out, that this was my only opening, and I was able to run myself down those stairs. Had I stayed scared in place, I don't think that I would be alive. Because had I not done that, I think that she would have eventually just left the room. She was acutely aware of the way her son behaved and his previous criminal history. So I don't really think that she actually had a genuine concern for my life as much as she was concerned about any sort of legal repercussion that would come from having a person literally die on her property. When I actually made it to the road, I made sure that was everyone's problem by screaming as loud as I possibly could. Those words still ring in my brain to this day in the exact tone that I said them in, which were, "I'm going to fucking die. Someone please help me. Someone please get this girl away from me. She hurt me. I've been attacked. And I'm going to fucking die again and again and again." That "I'm going to fucking die" one was definitely the most important one because I said that a lot to make sure it was really emphasized. I later discovered that the people that had all stopped and sort of tried to interact with me but had been told by my best friend that I was crazy or going through a mental health episode had actually called 911 and expressed their concern and had reported the suspicious behavior of my friend. However, they were concerned about actually stopping and intervening in the situation, though one man did, and his 911 call is the one that eventually got the ambulance to me because I was on the move, so I guess they didn't officially know where my location was just based on the descriptions. And the timeline is much shorter than I had initially thought, with me being to the hospital within a 30-minute period. And finally, what I think was most important in saving my physical body, at least, is the fact that I stayed alert, conscious, and calm for as long as I was able to, with calm being the most important. While you might think that someone who is actively losing their life is going to be anything but calm, I couldn't process those emotions in the moment. They were something that had to be dealt with afterwards, because in the moment, I needed to focus all of my energy on staying alive, and had I given into those anxious thoughts, I would have died significantly faster. So I needed to stay awake. And I did so by asking myself questions like, what is my hair color? What is my eye color? What kind of music do I like? What are my animals' names? Who is the president? Things that I knew would keep me connected to reality for as long as I possibly could, until eventually my body did give out on me. And when my body was giving out, I remembered one thing, and that is that I had two black and white horses. Their names are Polly and Lightning. And had I not held on to that fact, I don't know what would have happened next. But like I said in the beginning of the video, had that man not been on that street at that time and decided he wasn't going to listen to what my friend was telling him and was actually going to be the one who saved me, I would not be alive today.
My guidance counselor told me I wasn't university material, and years later I pretended not to know her. I know it doesn't sound much like revenge, but it was oh so sweet, let me tell you. Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life. and a mom who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some would call a textbook narcissist, with my mom as his flying monkey. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me. I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all of my classes and was always doing very well in my assignments, but had trouble completing them. My guidance counselor was the same all through high school, and every year would start with a meeting with her, and I would explain I needed some more help because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I obviously wasn't trying hard enough because I had no excuse since my stepdad, adopted dad, was, wait for it, a social worker for the school board and a personal friend of hers. Yeah, it was awful. At the end of high school, we had our obligatory meeting about what college or universities or trade schools to apply to. I told her I was interested in psychology and I would like to be a counselor or to teach psychology. The woman scoffed, literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material and you may be better with the community college or even certificate in administration." Now let me say, there is nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something. Nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s. I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day that I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and I graduated with honors. So I went to teacher's college for another bachelor degree. Again, graduated with honors. And about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioral psychology. 2 years ago, my stepdad died. And who was at the visitation? My old guidance counselor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately like she knew me, like we're old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm so sorry. You must be confusing me with someone else." She looked absolutely shocked and said, "I was your guidance counselor for 4 years." And I just shook my head and gave the best blank look I could give, shrugged and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all of these good memories of her, how helpful she was to me as a teen. But nope, I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me, had zero effect. Even though she did affect me, I wasn't going to let her know that.
Here are just some things my mother did this holiday season that like actually made me want to crash the fuck out. I love her to death, but it came to a point where I was like, no, she's like officially lost her mind. First thing she did, me, Sissy, my other sister, and my cousin, we all went to sushi dinner. I'm the type of bitch where I'm like, okay, let's all go around, like let's say our peak and pit of the year, like what we're the most grateful for. I love to do that shit. Okay, mind you, we all go around, we all do that. We say our peaks, our pits, we're laughing, we're giggling. Somehow we then get on to like a different topic. Okay, my mother interrupts, goes, "Livy, do you remember when you moved to California and you thought it was gonna be like so good for you, so amazing, but you ended up like losing a lot of money and like it really went horribly?" I said, "What the actual fuck? At a sushi dinner you want to bring?" I go, "Yeah, like I remember that, Mom. Like, what do you mean? You thought I fucking forgot that I did that?" Everyone was just kind of like. And Sissy was like, "Why did you bring that up?" She was like, "I just can't believe she did that. Like, do we just like remember when?" And I was like, "I'm gonna lose my." I said, "Yeah. Do you remember when you married my weird fucking father who literally abused everybody?" Because like I remember that very clearly. So something with age has just made her like 20 times more controlling. For example, she kept losing her fucking mind if I always put the toilet paper in the toilet paper holder. She wanted me to put it on top. And she would scream at me every single time that I put the toilet paper in the toilet paper holder. I was like, that's where the fuck it goes. I'm not allowed to hang towels on the shower. Just like every little thing. Like, I'm just like, okay, you were never this controlling, but like now you are. Also has very bad anxiety, but will never claim that it's actually anxiety. Like, for instance, she was low-key having like a panic attack and she's like, "It's just the biometric pressure in the air." What the fuck is the biometric pressure in the air? She's like, no, it's just like my allergies acting up. I'm just like having the flu. It's like, no, bitch, you're having a panic attack and that's okay. But like, let's just diagnose it as to what it is. It's anxiety. It'll help us get through it. Like, I've struggled with anxiety my entire life. Like, I know how to deal with like a fucking panic attack. So Cece and I are like trying to talk her down. She's sprinting around the house. Like, she's completely ignoring us, telling us to like fuck off kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. And she's literally like blaming Cece. She's like, she goes, "It's because you sprayed perfume. Like, it's the perfume. It's the scents that are just like making me sick." It's like, babe, you're having a fucking panic attack. Another thing is she woke me up every single day, probably around 7 a.m. because she was talking to Tiny. This is like actually low-key cute if I wasn't like in a deep sleep, but she would talk to Tiny and be like, "Okay, so Tiny, what are we gonna do today? Tiny, like, do you want to go outside? We should probably go outside and then I'll feed you breakfast." But I'm like, "Mom, it is 6 a.m. and you're having a full conversation with an animal who is not going to respond to you." And Tiny's just sitting there like pawing and I'm like, No, like, I love her for it. It's so cute. But, like, what, like, an in-depth conversation. She's like, okay, and then we have to go and grab things from Mariano's. I'm like, Tiny has no idea what the fuck you're saying. Can we please, or, like, let's just take the conversation to the kitchen. I'm actively sleeping. It really drove me crazy this holiday season, to say the least. Also, I just want to say, like, I know I'm going to get the comments that are like, she's narcissistic, cut her off, like, da-da-da, all those things. And if there's one thing I'm familiar with in this life, it's cutting a motherfucker off. I love her no matter what. And through, like, literally years of therapy, I've just accepted the things that I cannot change within her, and like I just don't let it affect me. Like, I don't, like, yeah, it pisses me the fuck off, but like I don't let it internally affect me anymore. Take what she says and what she does with like a grain of salt, and we can kiki and laugh about it, because at the end of the day, the woman is crazy. Like, she's crazy.
The first time I went to a boy's house was the most traumatic and embarrassing thing of my life. So embarrassing. I've only told like 2 people this story before. So nervous about telling it, but I actually have to. This is for the girls and the gays. If there's any men watching this, scroll. This ain't for you. Not for you. I feel like this is going to be very much in the club we all fam. Oh my god, I don't know if this just would happen to me. If this is going to be a universal thing. Did we all go through this? I was 16 here and he was 18. And I remember we kind of met on Instagram. We seen each other on St. Patrick's Day in town, like for the parade. And the conversation was probably less than a minute long. You're going to see like... You're gonna see why. So the conversation was very short. He started blowing my phone up, obviously, because he was like, oh, she's hot. He started blowing the phone up. And like, I actually really fancied him because I was never out to someone proper before, and I was like, oh, he's older. Boys I was kind of out to was boys that lived in my hometown, and like, we already knew each other. It wasn't like a big ordeal, kind of. It was the first time I ever went out to someone and like they were kind of a stranger. It was awkward, you know the feeling. So anyways, we texted for like just on and off for a while, and then I went out to him probably 3 times before I went over to his house. Okay, and so I'm gonna use this because it's new. The girls, he was so shy, and so basically for 3 dates I might as well just took myself out to Nando's and asked myself what my own favourite colour was, because he barely spoke. I fancied Emu. I don't know why. Why did I fancy Emu? I don't know. I'm like just the type of person that will keep talking. Even if I'm nervous, I'm just gonna keep talking, which makes this even more awkward. I used to just fire questions at him all the time just to kind of keep the conversation going, because oh my god, he just did not speak. I was like, why does he keep asking me to go out to him just so I can talk to myself? Like, I don't really get it, but okay. So anyways, he asked me over to his house. Oh my god, he must really fancy me if he's asking me over to his house. But I was so happy that he invited me over to his house. So I went over to his house, watched a movie, like awkwardest movie of my life. I remember we watched this movie, it was with Owen Wilson, and it was called Hall Pass, where his girlfriend like gave him a hall pass to basically sleep with someone else for the night, something like that. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, we watched the movie, very awkward, minimal talking, and if there was talking, it was me. Cue the man in the comments being like, oh my god, you're insufferable, you talk so much. Yeah, because you don't actually say anything, like you leave it to the women to do the talking. So if you want to talk about something other than football or boxing or whatever the hell you talk about, like pick something to talk about. Okay, so this is where it gets so awkward. Is this just me? Is this just me? Or is this really, really peak? If someone, okay, right, okay. So if someone has something more awkward than this, please text me and tell me, because this has genuinely haunted me for years. Like when I think of this, my whole body itches. Like I'm gonna start itching now when I start thinking about this, because it's just, this is like peak awkward for me. I don't think there is more awkward than this. You have to think, this is my first time at a man's house, let alone sleeping over at a man's house. His mum was away, by the way. It's so weird, like why did he ask me to come over if he wasn't going to talk? Like, not that it would have actually, he would have gotten like a yes answer, but didn't even try anything then. Like, and then he wasn't weird either, like he had a really well-known group of friends. Like I'm sure loads of people would know who this is. He had to be at the airport in the morning, so he was up early, so I had to be up early as well, so we woke up at the same time. That makes this even more awkward. Oh, stop. When we woke up in the morning, I went to the toilet, the bathroom, and when I went toilet, you know where this is going. Trigger warning, this is kind of disgusting, but I mean we're all girls, unless you're a weird man that's stepped this far. Bye. I went into the toilet and my whole, like, I had his shorts, like I slept in his shorts, he kept them to me, and it was like the iconic, you know, the grey men's shorts that are like to the knee, so it was like iconic ones. I were destroyed in blood. I mean, the whole thing at the back, destroyed. Please tell me I'm not alone. Please tell me I'm not alone. So in my head, I was like, shit, did I get it on his bed? Like, in the beginning, I wasn't panicking too much. I was like, okay, it's just the shorts. Like, I'll throw them in the bin. Like, you'll never know. I'll throw them in the bin. Girl, there was no way around this, I'm afraid. Like, there was truly no way around this. What happened next? Okay, so at the moment I went back into his room, I had to be so careful about the way I walked in so he like didn't see behind me. The minute I was walking in that door, he was literally about to change his bed sheets. Like, the minute I walked in, and the minute he lifted it up, you could see my whole half of the bed was covered in blood. Like, I mean, so much of it. He didn't know at this point, but I could see the back of him, and he also had some at the side of him as well. You're too shy to talk to me, we don't mind spooning me. Oh my god. So girls, there was an opportunity, okay? Think if you were in my position, what would you do? I had a 1 second window to think about what I was going to do next. No judgment, please. No judgment, okay? Okay. No judgment, leave the judgment at the door. I don't want to hear it. If you don't like liars, then sit back down and leave, because I literally... Girls, I swear to God, I'm not being funny. There was only one thing I could do in that moment, and that was to lie. Like, I had to lie. So I quickly, I mean, in my 1 second opportunity of when he looked at the bed and then he looked at me, I was like, okay, right, backstory. I got an operation on my spine when I was 14, so 2 years prior to this, and I did tell him about that. So in my 1 second of what the hell am I gonna lie about, I said, oh my god, my scar on my back. I did tell him about this. I was like, oh my god, the scar on my back, like, it's bleeding. This happens all the time. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. Like, my scar. No, I'm actually so embarrassed with myself. And girls, it actually worked for a second. Like, it did work, because in that 1 second window, he came over and he lifted up the back of my t-shirt. And when I tell you, I never swatted someone's hand away so quickly in my life. The lie worked for approximately like 0.00001 second, and then he knew. We ended up getting the same bus together because he was going to the airport and like I was getting the same bus home. So we got the bus. It was so awkward. Like, I'm getting actual goosebumps thinking of when it was time to say bye and he got off the bus first, and it was just the most awkward hug ever. Like, I actually want to get sick thinking of it. Still though, like, he must have been a good one, because it didn't stop him from texting me. And he actually like kept texting me for the longest time after that as well. And we actually did see each other again, but yeah, nothing kind of romantic ever happened after that. I think I just saw him as really awkward, but he did try, so he was a good one. That could have been made, obviously it was awkward, he obviously didn't know what to do in the situation, but like, he could have been really judgmental, which he wasn't. So I think that is a win. A win is a win. A win is a win. But when I think back to that, oh my god, I just can't. Like, I physically can't because of how awkward it was. For me, it's the lie for me. Why did I just think of that? Like, that is the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Why on earth did I choose that to be my little lie? I don't know. Please, does anyone else have any similar situations, or was I just unlucky? Like, I get it happening with boyfriends. That's so normal. People you're seeing, so normal. But the first time you go out to someone, please, like, that actually, I feel like that's me. Honestly, I cannot see that happening to anyone else.
I almost got fired from my last job for posting videos that went viral on here. Let me tell you about it. So I haven't told this story yet. Like, I told you guys that I got a warning and like I wasn't allowed to post my story times anymore, but I didn't really go in depth because I was still working there. But I have since quit and moved, and since I no longer work there, I'm going to talk about it. I'm also not going to name names because apparently that's what's so wrong with it, but it's the big corporate brand you all know, you all love. We all shop there, including me, and I'm going to tell you about it. So I started posting like customer story times earlier this year, and I was stupidly doing it in my work uniform. And the work uniform has a very distinct color and it's a very distinct brand. Like, you can tell who I work for in the first 5 seconds of seeing the video. If I wasn't doing it in uniform, like, it probably wouldn't have caught as many people's attention, but I was doing it in uniform anyways, even though I know I probably shouldn't have. And I was posting these stories for like 3 months maybe, and it's what like kind of blew up my TikTok. I had like a fair few followers before, like I had like 30,000 I think, and then it kind of blew up to like 100,000 just because of them. And for a long time I was known as that girl doing story times from such and such big corporation. And one day my manager comes up to me and she's like, hey, like, I saw your story time like on TikTok, like it came up on my For You page. And I was like, shit, I'm gonna get in trouble. But she was fine. She was just making sure I was okay, because a lot of the story times were very like personal and whatever. So she was just making sure I was okay. And I was like, okay, I'm sweet. Like, my management knows about it. Like, surely I'm fine. But this manager was like our scheduling manager. So all she did was like make our shifts and stuff. And like, she was really nice. That's what I didn't realize. And then one day in like August, I think the day after my birthday, I went to work, and my store manager, like, as I was walking into the office, so I had not even clocked on for my shift. I was just going into the office to like fill up my water bottle and go to the bathroom before my shift started. She pulled me aside and she's like, oh my gosh, happy birthday. How was it? Did you get your license? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, this is all sweet. And she's just, you know, saying happy birthday and whatnot. And then she goes, anyways, come into my office for a second. And I was like, oh, what's, like, is she giving me a present? Like, is she giving me a card written by everyone? Like, no. She pulled me into her office and she was like, hey, so I've actually just gotten word from the big management, like the head of office management, from the people on the social media team, and they've let me know about your little videos that you've been making. And immediately, like, my heart actually dropped, and I was like, perfect, I'm actually about to get fired. I was so scared. But I knew at this point, like, I hadn't necessarily done anything wrong. I hadn't said anything bad about the business itself or working there. It was just, like, my personal experience with customers. You know what I mean? And she's like, just letting you know, like, we're going to have a meeting about this, and we're going to have an in-depth chat. And I was like, shit. So we scheduled the chat for, like, the week after, and we had to have someone for me to have in the room and someone for my manager to have in the room for, like, witnesses, I guess. So I chose my mum because my mum's very much like in the legal system, so she knows all of the like legal part of it. And then we just had another worker to be like the witness and write down everything that was happening in the meeting. Immediately when we sit down, and like my store manager was usually like really, really nice, like she was such a lovely woman. As soon as we sat down, it was like down to business, like this is serious. And she whipped out a stack of papers like this thick, and she was like, these are all the policies that you've broken, this is everything you've said, blah blah blah. And there was just one piece of paper that was like, these are all the videos you've made, and like gave the dates, and like, this is, you've called customers bitches, you've called customers like whatever. Like, it was a full list of everything I'd done wrong. But in this corporation's social media policy, the only thing I'd actually broken was posting in uniform. Like, that was the only thing that I'd like signed. You have to remember, okay, the thing, like the contract that you have to sign with all of the policies and the guidelines or whatever is like 200 pages thick. And obviously you do it online now, so you just press like, yep, agree, sign, whatever. But the only thing I'd really broken was like posting in uniform, because the only other thing you're not allowed to do was like bash the company name like online, which I hadn't done. And so of course my mum, being the little lifesaver she is, brings this up in the interview. And obviously I've just been sitting there in silence while I've been told all of these things I've been doing wrong for like half an hour by my management. And then my mum comes in and she's like, are we going to talk about the positives of this? My manager's like, what? And mum's like, are we going to talk about the positives? Like, you're only pointing out the negatives. Do you want to see the upside of everything my daughter's done for your company? And then she went on like this list, and she's like, the amount of people that come into this work and purchase things just to go through like my daughter, to see my daughter, the amount of people that have asked my daughter how to sign up for work here, the amount of people that have actually signed up for work here, like just to be like my daughter or with my daughter, or because they like the story times and they want a work environment like that. And my manager was like, well, that's not up to me to see the positives. Like, I've just been told everything I need to say from big management. Anyways, by the end of the interview, I just got a warning and they didn't take any of the positives in note. And I just got a warning and I continued to work there. I just wasn't allowed to post anymore in uniform. So at this point, I'm really discouraged and I don't really want to work there anymore because my story times were the only thing really keeping me going, like posting things and having this entire environment on TikTok to chat with about it, like made it fun. And at this point, I was just super discouraged. So in my final weeks there before I quit, you want to know the really funny thing? The social media team at such corporation reached out to me and said, hey, we'd really love to do a video with you for our social media team. We'd love to post you on our TikTok. I was like, sorry? I was like, your team, the social media team, has just bashed me, saying everything I've done wrong. I tried to bring up the positives. Me and my mum tried to bring up the positives of what I'd done. You guys couldn't say anything about that, but now you want me to do work in my uniform on TikTok for you guys? I was actually shell-shocked. Like, I was stunned. I was like, absolutely not. So they asked for my rates on a video and I gave them my rates. Obviously, I raised them a little bit because you're a major corporation who's already done me dirty. So I was going to raise them a little bit. They didn't reply to me for like a week and a half. And then they replied and they're like, oh, sorry, the trend is actually already passed. So we're actually not going to work with you. Anyways, look, I loved working there. I had the most fun. Like, all of my colleagues were the best. The management was really good. But if you're going to work there, like, just don't post about it, potentially.
Am I the astronaut for stealing my sister's wedding spotlight with my emergency C-section? This past weekend, my younger sister got married. It was a huge event, over 200 guests, a fancy venue, the works. My husband and I attended, despite my being 38 weeks pregnant. I was feeling fine, and my doctor had cleared me to go as long as I stayed close to home and didn't overexert myself. During the reception, I started feeling some cramps. I thought they were just Braxton Hicks contractions, so I tried to ignore them and focus on the party. About an hour in, the cramps got worse, and I started bleeding. My husband and I quickly excused ourselves and headed to the hospital. Long story short, I ended up needing an emergency C-section to deliver my son. Thankfully, everything went well, and our baby is healthy and safe. The issue? My sister is furious with me. She claims I ruined her big day because several family members left the wedding early to come to the hospital, including our parents, who understandably wanted to make sure that I was okay. She says that I should have waited until after the wedding to go to the hospital, or at least not told anybody what was happening until the next day so the focus could stay on her. I apologized for the timing, but I reminded her that this was a medical emergency, and I didn't exactly choose for it to happen during her wedding. My mom and dad are on my side, but some of her friends and even a few relatives are saying that I'm selfish, and I could have handled the situation differently. My sister hasn't spoken to me since, and now I'm wondering if I really did something wrong. Am I the astronaut for going to the hospital during my sister's wedding? Edit for clarification. For those who might ask why I attended the wedding so late in my pregnancy, I cleared it with my doctor beforehand and had no prior complications. The hospital was only 20 minutes from the venue. I had no way of knowing this would happen. Update. Thanks for the mostly supportive messages, everybody. They are greatly appreciated. Update is my sister and I have now spoken via phone. She's on her honeymoon and has yet to meet the baby. This is fine. She's still angry, but more at the situation than me. So this is a welcome shift. Just to all who had asked or speculated, no, I did nothing to draw attention to myself during the reception. My parents noticed what was happening, and word naturally spread among the guests. This was beyond my control. Let me know what you think. Did I mess up, or is my sister overreacting?